We're at the beginning of the Great Depression, possibly the greatest depression. We're at the beginning of hyperinflation. We're at the beginning of the banking crisis.
There's a 1% chance that somebody saves the day. Superman saves the day, right?
Sure.
Who are the most likely people or institutions that could save this?
The only way you can save the system is to end the old system. You have to collapse it. You have to end the central banks. You have to get them out of the system. Only 0.5% of North Americans invest in precious metals.
Everyone I talk to speaks about gold, store of value. Oh my God, it's amazing.
Gold's at all-time highs pretty much every day right now.
Why the fuck does nobody have gold?
A lot of people don't know this. Gold's outperforming the S&P right now by over 30% just this year alone.
You guys have, in my opinion, a marketing problem. I mean, I see rappers and videos, they're all gold, they're blinged out.
It's an old market. It's old money is invested in metals. Young money has no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shit. Fuck.
You okay?
So today we got a really special guest in the building. Someone I've been really excited to bring on for a while now. He's the host of the SOSCAST, co-host of the Powerhouse PBD Podcast with Patrick Bet-David, a true professional network, a financial expert, and someone who's making some serious waves in the world of money, media, and mindset. So Adam Sosnick, thank you for being on the Gold Awakening. It's an honor to have you, brother.
Wow, I'm honored for that introduction. You know, if you read the comments sometimes, I don't think they build me up like that. So that's cool.
Why don't you do us a favor? Because some people maybe don't watch the Patrick Bet-David show or don't watch your podcast, but you got an interesting story. So I would love for you to just talk a little bit about how you got to where you're at today, and share your story, please.
Sure. One of my best friends always tells me, anytime you got to explain anything, anytime you got to tell a story, anytime you got to give a summary, just remember the rule of three. Just like any story, beginning, middle, end, everything, three little bears, everything like that. So the beginning, I'm born and raised in Miami. My father's from Detroit, as you know. My mom's from the Midwest, Minneapolis. Born and raised in Miami. I was a normal kid, nothing crazy. I was a good athlete, and I got a scholarship to an elite Miami high school. And that's when I learned the difference between, oh, that's broke, that's rich, that's super rich. You know, I was always like the one white kid on the all black basketball team in Miami. So like I was always just like looking at my surroundings, but always valued the dollar because my father was disabled. He had cerebral palsy and he collected disability. He also worked. So I saw how hard he was working. So I always just kind of had an idea for money, but I never had money. So your thing says here, gold is money. Everything else is
Credit.
There you go. So yeah, when I grew up, went to college, played some football, and I had no clue what I was going to do. I was a jack of all trades, master of none. I was in Miami nightlife. I did stand-up comedy. I did real estate. I was a sports agent. I did radio sales. I was doing all these things, sharpening my skills, but I was making no money. So sick of being broke, I said, I'm getting out of Miami. I moved to a city called Boca Raton, which... if you have any retiree friends or any friends that like to get out of Canada, Boca's a great place. And I got into the financial sector. I started off as a cold caller for a startup financial firm. Mm-hmm. And 18 years later, I'm the VP of sales for a company called Welcome Funds. I love it. It gave me an amazing opportunity to get into the financial sector. And that's how I met PBD at a financial conference, working out in the gym in 2012. And in 2016, I had made enough money to be what I call chillin'. And chillin', I believe, is when you own your time. You know, time is money. When you kind of just own your time and you have enough money to kind of do what you want. And I consulted with PBD. And I said, man, I see what you're doing with these videos. What's going on? And he kind of gave me a little inspiration to start doing man on the street money interviews. What do you know about money? Who do you talk to? Where do you get your advice? I was doing thousands of interviews.
How long ago was that?
That was 2016 to 2020. And then COVID happened. And then there's no more man on the street stuff. I'm already speaking with PBD about this. And he goes, what do you think about joining Valuetainment? What are your thoughts? I was like, dude, I got nothing going on. Moved to Dallas, during COVID. This was like May of 2020. People don't know what the hell's going on. I tell my family and friends, guys, I'm out putting all my stuff in storage from Miami. I'm going to Dallas. They're like, what? What are you talking about? Everyone's like, you're getting on a plane? What? I'm like, I got 15 masks on. I don't know what's going on. I end up in Dallas. I see PBD, no mask, no nothing. And we start the PBD podcast. And now I'm helping Valuetainment grow and Connect. And that's what I'm doing now. So that's the quick rundown, rule of three.
That's amazing. So your podcast is blown up as well. The SOSCAST. I've been watching it a little bit recently as well. I honestly didn't know about your podcast until recently. But yeah, very, very interesting things you talk about. So maybe tell us a little bit of what you guys focus on your podcast and kind of what people can expect.
Yeah. So, the anchor of everything with Valuetainment obviously starts with PBD and the PBD podcast, right? So that is mainly my focus. But on the side, I also do my own show, the SOSCAST, which I'm reinventing and sort of re-engineering that and getting back to what I used to talk about, which is just basically money.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing all the man on the street interviews, and I was basically, my story was 25, I was my brokest friend. I was crashing on people's couches. I had a lot of friends, but I had no money. By 35, I was a millionaire.
Mm.
And what did I do? How did I do it? How did it work? And what I wanted to do was give back and share my story with millennials. Now everybody's talking about Gen Z, right, Mike? But I said, but I want to do it in a cool way, in a fun way, in a language everybody can understand. And that's what I was doing for many years with Valuetainment, even before Valuetainment. And then Patrick, PBD, is always big on reinventing yourself, not doing the same thing every single year, right? Don't get boring, don't get stagnant. So he goes, why don't you spice it up a little bit and start, talking more about lifestyle and maybe, when I'm not doing finance, I'm in Miami nightlife. I own a bar. I'm in a club scene. I know celebrities. I was like, all right, maybe I'll do that, which led me to talking about where finance meets romance, which led me to talk about with women and men and dating and intersexual dynamics. And I entered this space called the red pill space. I'm speaking with these guys and I'm learning about feminism and toxic masculinity. And I'm a pretty moderate person. I'm able to communicate with uh, all types of people. And really the general idea is to find the common ground. I feel like men and women or Republicans and Democrats or blacks and whites or Americans and Canadians, whatever it is, we're a lot better when we work together, not try to tear each other apart. So I'm always trying to find common ground. So that's a lot of what that show is about. But during the election season, I was very much focused on the PBD podcast because we were having Trump on and Vivek on and Ron DeSantis and all these amazing people. I said, let me put the relationship and dating stuff aside for a little bit. So, but now I'm rolling out a little bit more money type content, and that's coming soon.
Awesome. That's great. Let's talk about money. Obviously, right now it's a crazy time in the world with Trump and all the tariffs, and the markets are up, they're down, they're up, they're down. I mean, it's gold's at all-time highs pretty much every day right now. Crypto's all over the place as well. There's really not a lot of certainty in the world. The only thing that's really that people have confidence in right now, in my opinion, is gold. And I'm just curious what your take is on gold right now this year. Gold, and a lot of people don't know this, gold's outperforming the S&P right now by over 30% just this year alone. And we're only 3 months and a half into this year, which is pretty crazy. And if you even go back to 2000, gold's outperforming the stock market by over 300%. So it's not that it's just this year alone. Gold's been a great safe haven asset and a great performing asset, but nobody's invested in it. Only 0.5% of North Americans invest into precious metals, which is really, really like we're a bullion dealer here in Windsor. And we were really, really busy during COVID. Everybody was wanting to buy precious metals. But right now, even though gold's at all-time highs and is up 50-60% in the last 12, 13 months, nobody's really buying. It's really quiet. And it's
Why do you think that is? You're saying only 5%
0.5, less than 1% of North Americans.
0.5%. So
And
Let's
that's including gold mining companies too, and gold stocks, not just the physical.
I really want to have this conversation with you because I feel like maybe we can make a difference, Mike. Right?
Exactly.
So, what percentage? You're saying North Americans, right? You're talking Americans, Canadians, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you want to throw Greenland in there. I don't know. I don't know where they're at, but let's just do some basic math, right? I don't know the answers. We're just going to speculate.
Sure.
0.5% of Americans or North Americans are invested in precious metals.
Yep.
Okay. So just for rounding numbers, let's call it 1%, right?
Sure.
It's a great day in the market. What percentage of North Americans have dollars?
I'm going to say 100. Cash.
I'm going to say 99.9%, right?
Sure.
So, you could say there's a homeless guy that, maybe has a couple pennies, whatever. You can also say there's people that are in debt and they have more debt than money. That's a whole conversation.
Sure.
But 100% of people have $1.
Sure.
Yes?
Yep.
Open up my wallet. Here we go. We got money. We got money. We got money. We got money. We all understand what that is. Okay. What percentage of Americans or North Americans have access to a bank account?
That's a good question. It's high. Let's look that up. It's got to be in the high 90s.
According to ChatGPT, if you trust this thing, 99% of Canadians and 96% of Americans are quote unquote banked. So 100% have fiat currency money.
Sure.
95 to 99% are like, yeah, I got a bank account. Great. What percentage invest in the stock market?
I'm gonna guess 25%.
Oh, it's higher than that.
Is it?
And the number is, as per ChatGPT, is 62%.
It's huge. 62. That's high.
Okay.
That's crazy.
So 62%. I thought it was closer to 50. So what percentage of North Americans, here's the kicker, invest in crypto?
I'm gonna guess 10 on that one. 5 to 10, I'm gonna guess.
And drum roll, 28%.
Wow.
28%.
I don't buy these numbers, but we'll go with it.
Let's just say these numbers are very wrong.
Yeah.
Let's cut them in half. Let's say, screw you, I don't believe you.
Sure.
And the investing in the stock market isn't 62, it's 35, something like that.
Sure.
Crypto, you don't believe it's 28, it's 14.
Sure.
Now let's go to gold. 0.5%. Let's say I don't believe you. Let's say, I double believe you. It's 1%, it's 2%. You know what you guys have?
Opportunity.
Sure. You have opportunity, but you've had opportunity for 100 years, million years, 1,000 years.
True.
You guys have, in my opinion, a marketing problem.
I agree with that.
Do you believe that gold is a great store of value?
It's the best.
The best. Is gold at an all-time high right now?
Yep. Nobody knows about it.
Okay. I mean, I see rappers in videos, they're all gold, they're blinged out.
You're 100%.
My question is this. I know you're asking the questions, but this is something that
Yeah,
really,
I love the way you think.
everyone I talk to speaks about gold, store of value. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's the one thing, the gold's, you got off the gold standard Nixon, 1971. I hear this. And I go, yeah, great. Why the fuck does nobody have gold?
I'll tell you why. There's a couple reasons. You're right about it's not marketed well. There's not a lot of gold promoters out there in the world. There's very, very few. That's kind of why I got into it. And the people I follow, they're all in their 70s, 80s years old because gold, like you said, it was off the gold. We've been off the gold standard since 1971. So we went a whole generation or two where nobody knows anything about gold. Nobody even knows what money is. They think the paper currency in their pocket is actual money. That's not money. That's fiat currency. And all fiat currencies throughout history, over 4,000 of them, have gone to zero. They all go to zero. That's their true intrinsic value. It's just the paper value of that paper, which is zero. And gold has been money for thousands of years, but people don't know that. Nobody knows what gold is, what silver is. Nobody knows that silver is one of the most important commodities in the world, the most precious metal in the world because it's used in all technology products. 60 to 70% of all silver that gets mined from the ground gets used for industrial purposes. People don't know that. People think silver is money and jewelry. They don't even know silver's money. They don't even know our money was silver back in the day, not too long ago. Even the US dollars, their paper currencies were silver certificates. People don't know that today. People don't know what gold and silver is, and that's the biggest issue because it's not taught in schools. It's not, their financial advisors know nothing about gold and silver. They don't own it themselves. I've had this business for 8 years. Not one financial advisor has bought gold or silver from me. It's insane. And we have thousands of clients, and not one financial advisor has purchased gold and silver. Because they don't make money off of it when they sell to their clients. So banks don't tell their customers to buy gold and silver. I mean, it's a product. If you're not learning about it on your own, if you're not a historian and you're not studying the history of money, and you don't understand the Federal Reserve and how money works, you're not going to know anything about gold and silver, and you're going to have no interest in buying it. And that's where we're at right now. So that's my goal, and that's why I have this podcast. To be honest with you, I want to educate, and I wanted the masses to know, because I think it's the most important asset to own over the next 5 to 10 years. Precious metals. If you don't own it, you're screwed. I mean, crypto might be able to save you, depending on the cryptos you own. There's a lot of risk there as well, but gold and silver is the only guarantee. You got 5,000 years of history on your side. You got a very scarce asset, a commodity that is needed for the world. Central banks, there's a reason they're buying record amounts. They have all the money. The central banks run the world. They have all the money in the world, and they are buying gold. And to me, that is a major, major statement, and nobody's paying attention.
So when I started learning about gold, and I mean, I was talking about money for years. I didn't have money. I want money. I want to make money. I made money. I saved that money. I invest that money. Financial advisors, investing, S&P, I'm learning about all this stuff. Finally, I joined PBD in 2020. He goes, "You own any gold?"
Mhm.
I go, "No." Like, jewelry? It's like, "No, I'm talking like bullion." I was like, "What'd you call me?" You know? No.
Yeah, nobody knows what that word means. It's crazy.
He hands me, he goes, "Yeah, my guys, I do for his insurance company. He runs these challenges, events, contests. And the winners get, shopping spree or cash bonus or gold."
Mm.
He goes, "You ever felt, I think an ounce of gold, I think is what it was?" I go, "No." He goes, "Feel this." It's like very heavy. Was it considered an ounce? What is it called? Like a thing like this?
That's a kilo.
Kilo of gold. Kilo of gold. "How much is a kilo?" He goes, "How much you think this is?" This is in 2020. He goes, "It's probably like this big." Right?
You want to go grab me that kilo of gold? I'll bring it on.
I go, "Holy shit. Kilo of gold." I go, "This is heavy. Size of your phone, maybe smaller."
Yep.
He goes, "I might butcher the number, but I'll be somewhere around." And he goes, "How much you think this is?" Like, I got no clue. He goes, 70 grand. Right? I said,
And it's a lot more now.
"Sure, it's a lot more. How much is a kilo of gold?"
So we just bought one today from a client. I'll show you. I'll take it out of the package, but this is from the Royal Canadian Mint. All right.
Yep. There you go.
Size of you're right, a small cell phone.
Flip it. There you go. Size of a small cell phone.
We bought it for 136,000. We bought it for. So if you want to buy this, you're like 145 grand Canadian. So you're
How much
talking
did that cost? How much that?
100,000 US.
100,000 US.
Yep.
How much do you think that was in 2020?
Exactly what you said. Well,
Okay.
less than that.
Maybe
It
60.
almost doubled in price. Yeah.
And when did that spike occur? Because I remember Pat.
COVID, it moved heavy.
Okay.
It came down early on with everything else, and then it rebounded heavy.
Gotcha. Because I saw you react to the clip with PBD versus Peter Schiff when he picked out the year he was born, 1978. And you're like, "Listen, you're kind of discrediting the fact that there was a huge gold run,
Right.
70s."
Yes.
I guess, not that I'm here to like get involved. Pat's response would be like, "Yeah, great. I wasn't even alive then. How would I buy it?" Right? So
You're right.
either were you probably.
But this is so now everybody's about to live through the next commodities bull run similar to the 1970s, probably even bigger. And in that bull run, gold went up 25 times. Real estate did nothing. Stocks did nothing. Stocks were flat. So gold, I'm talking about gold outperforming S&P by 30% this year. It outperformed the S&P by 2,500% in the 1970s. Silver
Really?
went up 41 times in the 1970s. And that's exactly the decade, I believe, because that was stagflation. You had super, super high inflation.
Yep.
And you had a major slowdown in the economy. That's exactly what we're going to experience over the next 5 to 10 years. The inflation ain't going away. We're going to be printing money from here on out in a more rapid pace. And the
Why would we
economy,
make more money now? Then we just
because that's how the system is designed. It's a debt-based economy. The system can only grow if you continue to print more money. Once you stop printing money, the system collapses and you'll have a credit freeze and the banking system goes down, the whole financial system collapses. And maybe they'll allow that. That might be part of the plan. Maybe they have a credit freeze and they collapse the financial system and don't print any more money. And then they kill off all the central banks. Maybe. My idea is they're going to continue to print trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars every single year here on out to keep the game going, to keep the illusion alive that everything is okay. The stock market is healthy. Your job is healthy. But the reality is we're in a major, major recession. The dollar is collapsing around the world and there's no way out. You can't raise interest rates. They tried. They raised them up to 5%. The system almost collapsed. In 1980, here's the biggest difference between 1980 and today. In 1980, they were able to save the dollar by raising interest rates to 20% when inflation was at 15%. We got inflation in Canada at 9%. We brought the interest rates to 5% this time, nowhere near to where you need to bring it to stop the inflation. But we had to lower them. In Canada, we already lowered them back below 3%. So because our economy couldn't handle it. So we can't handle increase in interest rates. We can only handle cheap interest rates, which means more inflation, because the lower interest rates creates more inflation, which means we're going to have, you can't just lower rates on your own. You have to print money to lower those interest rates. That's the big thing people don't understand. People are like, oh, the Federal Reserve reduced rates by 0.5% today. Okay, that's great. You don't just tell people you reduce interest rates. You actually have to go into the market, buy treasuries, and bring that interest rate down. That's how this system works. So that means you have to print money to bring those interest rates down. So it devalues the dollar. Every time you reduce interest rates, it's devaluing the dollar. And if we do raise interest rates to a level where we need to stop inflation, the whole financial system and economy will completely implode. And that's where we're headed in the next 5 to 10 years.
So how certain are you of that?
100.
100, not even 99.
No. It's the end of the financial system. This is the end game. They're not the difference this time between in 1980 they saved the dollar because they know they needed it for a few more decades. This time they're not going to save the dollar because they can't. It's unsavable unless you go into the greatest depression in the history of mankind, and that's no president is going to allow that.
Let's play a game for a sec, Mike. Let's say that 100% is closer to 99%, right?
Of course. In my mind.
There's a 1% chance that somebody saves the day. Superman saves the day, right?
Sure.
You know, we care about America, Canada, North America, right? The West, Western civilization, right? We see what's going on with BRICS and we see what's going on around the world. You're talking about the central banks. US has $36 trillion in debt. We're seeing, talking about hyperinflation or deflation, all these things that are going on there, the de-dollarization with the BRICS, everything that's going on. But let's just say that 99%, is the reality, and there's a 1% chance that somebody saves the current system, the dollar being the...
You can't. That's the problem. You can't save a faulty system. It's impossible.
We're playing a game.
Okay, let's play the game.
Who are the most likely people or institutions that could save this? Is it Jerome Powell? Is it Trump? Is it BRICS falling apart? Like, what is the most likely outcome?
The most likely outcome?
For that 1%.
The only way you can save the system is to end the old system. You have to collapse it. You have to end the central banks. You have to get them out of the system. But the central banks are the main reason we have the current issues and the inflation that we're seeing today. They're the main cause. They're the root of all evil. They are the reason we are slaves to our government and our society. If we get rid of central banks, we have a chance. And that's where the beauty of Bitcoin. That's where Bitcoin comes into play. Because Bitcoin actually takes away all the power from the banks and puts it back into the hands of the people. That's our only chance. That's our 1% chance. But you can't save the old system because it's a flawed system that was designed to crash. The only reason they created the fiat-based system was to collapse it. There's no debt-based economy or fiat currency system that's ever worked long-term, ever in history. You can't find one. If you could find it, I'd love to know it. Never happened. So here we are again at the end days. The dollar's now lost 97% of its purchasing power to the US dollar since the Federal Reserve came in 1913. We didn't even have income taxes before that time in 1913. The Federal Reserve is what caused all the problems. They devalued our dollar by 97%. They raised our income taxes to where we are. I know the government claims they take ownership of the income tax, but again, the central banks have a big part of how this entire world is run. Their end goal is to completely enslave the middle class, completely control the middle class. And that's where we're headed. And I don't see any way around it. I think people are screwed because they're not sitting on assets like precious metals and cryptocurrencies. They're sitting on traditional assets. And if that multi-quadrillion dollar derivative bubble pops and that bond bubble collapses, which will eventually happen because it was in a 40-year bull market with interest rates coming down since 1980, it's going to engulf everything with it. When the bond bubble collapses, the stock market will collapse, and then the real estate market will collapse, and everybody's going to get caught in that, and nobody's going to be protected. And they're going to need the government to help them at that point. And that's when the government has you by the balls. And now you're full on socialist country. And I think that's where we're headed. I don't see any way around it. I really don't. Unless if you could tell me a solution, I'd love to know, but I don't know it.
No, it feels like I'm interviewing you, but when we're having a conversation, but the premise that I'm getting at is, okay, 100% of people have the fiat currency. 95 to 99% are banked. Half of North Americans, if not more, are invested in the stock market. 20-something% are in crypto. Gold being such a powerful, timeless commodity, 0.5%. What needs to be done to educate people and to simplify the process? Because here's my thing. Here's my issue. You talked about teachers not teaching this in school, right?
Yeah.
Teaching gold in school, teaching crypto in school. Teachers don't teach basic finance in school. They don't teach you in school about debt versus credit versus checking accounts. One of the things I always say is like the ABCs of school and money. I learned algebra, I learned biology, I learned chemistry. Nothing about money. Zero. I had to go on my own. But then again, it's like, why are we relying on teachers to teach us about money? One of the things that I'm a huge advocate of is teaching personal finance in school. But then the counter argument is, how do you teach somebody about money if they don't have any money? They're 8 years old, they're 10 years old. All right, what are we going to do about that? Let's teach high school kids. All right. There's just such a lack of education, and there's such a wedge between the teaching system and the economic system and the average person that's just basic money. Right, Mike?
For sure.
So now you want to talk about saving, or when you get into investing in the stock market, what's the S&P, what's the Dow, what are ETFs, index funds? What do you mean? Now there's also bonds. The stock market isn't the bond market. What are you talking about? No, they're different markets, just like there's the real estate market, just like there's crypto. What? There's commodities. What type of commodities? Oh, we got oil, we got gold, we got silver. There's so much stuff that the average person looks at bulls and bears and reds and greens, and they just get paralysis by analysis, and they're just like, I think I'm just going to go buy some shit. And just spend their money. So the reason that I'm going through this entire sequence with you is, if gold is the solution, we need to simplify the answer, right? If I want to go to the store right now, hey, I want to get change for a 20, ding, 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 bing, bing. If I want to get a credit card, all right, just credit card swipe. If I want to get gold, where am I going? Do I go online? Do I go to a store? How, make it simple, like, it's almost like, in a weird way, this is fucking weird. So it's like buying drugs, right? I'm not talking about the pharmacy. It's like if I want to go get some weed or some whatever, hey bro, do you got any? No, I don't know anybody, but call my boy Bill. Yo, what's up, Bill? Yeah, I got a guy. Yeah, but he's gonna come to you. You can't go to his house. All right. When's he coming? He says he'll be there in an hour. Hey, bro, it's been an hour. Where is he? Oh, no. His cell phone's off. Call his girlfriend. You're like, I just wanted to buy some fucking weed. That's how I feel gold is. You got to get gold. Talk about gold. What do you mean? All right. Like, yeah. Can you go to a bank? No, not really. Like, you got to go online. But then I go online and I gotta store it. Then what do I do?
Yeah.
I gotta store it in my house. I gotta buy a safe. Do I go get an ETF? What's an ETF? It's like, just simplify this shit and people will buy gold.
Hey, brother, I gotta stop you. I gotta just pause you for one. I'm like, I've never felt this in my life. Can you give me like, fuck me, bro? I don't know what's going on.
You okay?
No. Holy shit.
If you think your money is safe, think again. Our economy is on the brink of total collapse. Think back to the 2008 financial crisis. Inflation skyrocketing, stocks tumbling, and banks on the verge of collapse. Sound familiar? It's not just history, it's a warning. And ignoring this warning could be the biggest financial mistake of your life. In 2008, gold and silver were by far the best performing assets. That is why now is the time to invest in precious metals. At Can-Am Bullion, you can order both gold and silver directly from our online store. Can-Am is also an authorized dealer with the Royal Canadian Mint, so you can be rest assured that you are dealing with a reputable bullion dealer. Do you really want to wait for an economic collapse? Now is the time to make a smart and informed decision and protect your wealth with gold and silver.
Click the link below to book a consultation with myself or any of our precious metals experts.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not an easy process, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to sell gold and silver. And just in Windsor, for example, population of 400,000 people approximately with the outer cities, and there wasn't one walk-in retail precious metals dealer. So I am still, after 8 years of being still the only walk-in retail precious metals dealer in Windsor.
Really?
So you're spot on. We're saying it's not easy. People don't know where to buy it. Nobody's referring them. Their financial advisors aren't telling them. Until we monetize it where the financial advisor can actually make money on selling physical bullion, that's the only way it will become popular. And until then, and that's never going to happen. And I think it's all by design, to be honest with you. I don't think the powers that be want the man on the street to own precious metals. So that's why I feel compelled to kind of get out there and try to educate people. But people don't listen. I'm not going to lie. Like, I've been trying to tell family and friends to invest into precious metals, even crypto, for years. They don't want to listen to me. They want to listen to their financial advisor, things they're comfortable with, and which is fine. It's just what's coming, in my opinion, in the next 5 to 10 years. If you are not heavily invested in metals and a big chunk of your net worth isn't in metals or crypto, you have serious risk of just moving down a class, going from middle class to lower class, or going from upper middle class to lower middle class. That's the swing that is about to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And I don't want it to happen to people I love and care about. And I feel like it's inevitable at this point.
Why don't we do this? Why don't you pretend that you're my financial advisor, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, look, Michael, I got a bunch in cash. I got a bunch in the stock market. I got 401ks. I got Roth IRA. I got Bitcoin. I got crypto. But, I haven't really gotten into gold yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
What should I do?
I mean, you got to take a position. I think personally, 10 to 25% of somebody's net worth should be in precious metals. And you can argue at a higher percentage in situations like we are in today, because precious metals works in cycles. It only performs well when it's in a bull market, right? And we're in a bull market, obviously, right now. So this time you could, yeah, go ahead.
Let me, at what net worth point? Meaning, if your net worth is $50,000, you're telling me I got to put 10 grand into gold?
I would say silver. Personally, there's a lot more upside in silver. Gold, you're not going to get rich. Gold, you're going to maintain your wealth. Okay, gold is for people who have a lot of wealth. I look at silver is for the middle class people who can actually get wealthy from silver, like you could have in the 1970s. If you put 25 grand into silver in 1970, by 1980 that was worth $1 million. That's significant, and that's the situation we're in right now. Silver is going to go up 40 times from here. There's no question in my mind. The dollar's dying, silver's going to run out, and when the retail market and the man on the street starts to rush into silver, it's going to run out in days or weeks, and that's coming. And that happened during COVID. It ran out quick, and we were waiting 4 months to get silver into our store. But this next event that's going to happen is going to make COVID look like nothing, because this next event is, yeah, go ahead.
I like where we're at here. You're saying, 25% of your total asset allocation should be into precious metals. Is that what you're saying?
100%.
So not just commodities, not gold, specifically silver or precious metals.
Yes.
No, and I've heard that before. Gold won't make you rich, it'll keep you rich, right?
Exactly.
So, you got to give people the blueprint, the playbook. So what's the asset allocation, right? Like, all right, so let's say you have $1 million portfolio, let's just say. Forget about real estate because that's separate. You've got, 200 grand of 401k, you've got 50 to 100 grand in cash, you've got a couple hundred grand of the stock market, you've got 100 grand of crypto, like whatever it is. How would you put this piece of the puzzle together? I'm just giving you an example, but if you have, because what percentage of people have $1 million cash, liquid? Not that many.
Nobody. Even the wealthy people I'm talking to, they don't have investable money to go into metals. What they always say is, "Oh, it's in my RSP or it's in my 401k," or like they can't move it out because they're going to be taxed. And it's like, listen, I mean, if that's all the money you have, I mean, use the money in your real estate. I think right now the biggest problem is most people's wealth is caught up in their own personal residence. I mean, the middle class, that is. Their home is now worth $1 million, $2 million. They might have 100 grand in the stock market.
They're what I would call cash poor, house rich.
Exactly.
And what they're going to say, well, what am I going to do? Sell my house? I'm one of the few people I know that has money. I don't got PBD money. I don't got Elon Musk money, but for my age, I'm doing great. I never bought a house. Keep in mind, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I was married 10 years ago. Sure. But I said, listen, if I'm just going on pure data, the stock market outperforms the real estate market. Crypto outperforms the stock market, Bitcoin. There's better investments. And while I'm figuring out my path, I want to invest in me. In the past 10 years, I probably moved 7 times, X amount of different cities, because I'm still figuring it out. Now, obviously, when you have a family, you have kids, you have a house. Do you own a house in Windsor?
Only because my wife made me buy it.
Bingo.
But if it was me on my own, I would have sold the house and invested it.
Unfortunately, we all have bosses, right?
Exactly.
Your wife.
Exactly.
So, meaning a lot of people should act more rationally and follow the data and follow the ROI, but we all have emotions. We all have feelings. Good luck telling your wife, honey, gold is a better ROI than having a house.
I tried.
So you should. She's like, honey, we're getting a freaking house. Shut up. So what I'm saying about simplifying the whole access and the entry point to the gold and the silver is you're saying the financial advisors aren't making a vig or a fee from doing it. The average person doesn't understand finances. Simplify it. Now, it's not your job, but it is your job to take a fraction of the market in Windsor.
Yeah.
So with this asset allocation, all right, I want to go get gold. Where am I going? Like, I don't live in Windsor. I'm not going to Windsor.
Right.
Do I go online? Like, for the average person, step 1, step 2, step 3, what should they do?
My first advice would be go find a local bullion dealer in your hometown and sit down, set up an appointment, and have a conversation with him. Get a better understanding of the market. Get a better understanding of, should you be investing in gold? Should you be investing in silver? Why? What's the better opportunity? Should I be buying coins, bars, rounds, big bars, small bars? There's all these questions. People don't just not understand gold. They don't understand anything about it. They don't even know what it looks like, to be honest with you. So get those questions answered. They're going to steer you in the right direction. Precious metals dealers make really, really small margins. We work between 2 and 5%. So I mean, it's a really, that's another reason a lot of people don't get into this market. There's not a lot of money to be made. I mean, you got to really start selling to big money people, and they're not getting into this game yet. Some of them are starting to wake up a little bit, but most of them are still in the stock market and real estate market. I think what we're looking at doing is actually conferences and setting up workshops where I already have a presentation set up where I'm going to look to speak to 50 to 100 people in Windsor and get the ball rolling, because I think the evidence is obvious. When I can start showing them cycles and I can go back into decades and showing them what performs well in certain environments and why real estate performed well over the last few decades and why it's not going to in the next decade, and why people don't understand the story of gold and silver or why they should be investing in. So I need to start there, and I need to educate the people. And I think doing it in that way is a lot easier. And people aren't going to just go on a podcast and start watching gold and silver because they're not interested in it. They have no reason to watch a podcast on gold and silver unless somebody forced them to watch it.
Step 1, go see your local gold and bullion or
your bullion dealer.
Bullion dealer. Okay.
So sorry, there's one other option. I also own my own bullion website. Marcello's yelling at me, plug your website.
Plug the website. Try the suit. So think about the average 25-year-old guy, right? He was just graduating high school during COVID, 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever. He's in college. He's been already addicted to social media. He's barely leaves his house. He goes to work. He comes home. He's on the dating apps. He doesn't meet girls in public. He's on the dating apps. Instead of socializing, they're on social media, right? So that guy, you're like, so now I gotta go get out of my house, go speak to some bullion dealer. I'd rather just do it on crypto. I could just go on Robinhood right now. Bing, ding, 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 bing. So what else?
So we have an online store. We're canambullion.com.ca. We're in North America. So you can go online. You can order any amount of gold you want with a click of a button as well.
Now they got to know your website.
You don't have to know. You could just Google buy gold and silver online, and you'll find hundreds of websites.
Okay. And they're like, who do you trust? How do you know?
Right. That's why I go back to the local bullion dealer, right? I mean, but you'll see that some of these companies have hundreds of thousands of reviews.
What about this? So like I have a few platforms I use to manage my investments. The typical Vanguard, Fidelity, and then a couple of smaller ones, Wealthfront, Betterment. I have Coinbase for crypto, Gemini, a couple of different things. If I wanted to buy gold on one of my platforms, buy gold ETF, what would I do for that?
On the crypto, you could buy gold ETFs. Yeah, you could buy gold ETFs, but that's not real gold. The problem with that market is they don't actually hold the physical for you, and you can't demand delivery. So you own a paper contract of a derivative. Problem is multiple people own that same ounce of gold. So they may sell 300 ounces of gold on that day, but they only have 1 ounce in inventory. So they're like GLD, SLV. Those are going to go to zero eventually when they get caught for not having the actual physical behind it.
Okay, so ETFs, not a good.
No to ETFs. I mean, mining companies have a lot of opportunity. I mean, the only downside with mining companies is gold and silver can be nationalized. Mexico is talking about doing that. That would be a game changer. But if they don't, these mining companies, it's basically if silver goes up 1,000%, these mining companies will go up 3, 4, 5,000%. So it's basically it's like the altcoin industry of the metals market. You get some leverage with the mining companies, and they're really depressed right now. They're like 80% off of their highs, even though gold's at all-time high. Gold mining companies are still 80% off of their all-time highs. So the upside in these mining companies is enormous. So if you got money stuck in the stock market and you don't want to own the physical in your own home, go buy the mining companies. Don't touch the ETFs. Those things will eventually go to zero. You don't want to be caught in that situation. The miners have huge upside opportunity.
Now, how do you get involved in a mining company?
I mean, you could buy the ETFs, or you could do your own research and invest in mining companies that you like. But the ETFs, like GDX, for example, it's a mining. There's like 50 to 100 different mining companies within the ETF. So that's an option. Or you buy the actual individual companies. Like First Majestic is the biggest silver mining company in the world, and I love their CEO. That's a great company to invest in. But you if you want to do the research, ask ChatGPT. What are the best mining companies? I mean, honestly,
this is something that I think is a worthy conversation, because I hear about gold all the time, but I don't know a lot of people that have gold. I hear about crypto all the time. Everybody has crypto. I hear about money all the time. Fiat currency. Literally 100% of people have money. So the entire exercise that I'm trying to understand, and I'm using an expert like you, right, Michael, is you believe in gold. You see the value in gold. You think that gold is going to be the number one commodity in the world the next decade. How do we get gold into more people's hands? And the way you do that is simplifying it, and not making it so inaccessible, right? So that's my only point. This whole entire exercise is how do we simplify it?
I mean, there's not a lot of options. I mean, let's put it in perspective. There's maybe just in Windsor alone, there's probably 1,000 financial advisors. Everybody has a financial advisor. There's some people who like to do it on their own. They think they know more than their financial advisor. Great. But most people have a financial advisor, and that's who they get their financial advice from. So it's not just making it easier. Like I said, people don't want to do the homework. They don't want to do the research. They want somebody to tell them what to do and what to invest in, and then for them to even do it for them. They don't even own a Questrade account or their own trading account. They have mutual funds with their financial advisor. That's the majority of the world. So I don't think you're going to change that dynamic right now, because you're not going to change that dynamic until that financial advisor loses them 50, 60%, which I think is coming very soon. At that point, I think you're going to see people flee the stock market and go into safe haven assets. They'll go find their bullion dealer because they're going to see the price of gold in that scenario will be skyrocketing and everybody will be talking about gold. So I told you if 0.5% of North Americans own it now, and back in 1980, 5% of North Americans owned it. So big difference. So it went up. So we got a tenfold opportunity increase in the people owning precious metals.
You said in 1980,
the top of the commodity bull market. That was the top. Gold went from $25 to $850. That was hit its top. In that year, 5% of North Americans own precious metals.
So there's been a major sell-off where 80+% have rid themselves of the commodities?
Correct.
Precious metals?
Correct. Because it hasn't performed well since then. Like Patrick Bet-David said in his video, like since 1980, it hasn't been great. But if you want to cherry pick, since 2000, gold's outperformed the stock market significantly. 2025, gold's outperforming the stock market significantly. That's the new trend. That's what we're going to see.
You're saying since year 2000 to today, gold has outperformed the S&P 500?
Yes, drastically by over 300%.
What?
Yeah, I know. Nobody knows that.
The rate of return on the traditional stock market is 10%. Real estate is 5%. What are you saying the rate of return on gold is since?
I don't know. I think it was like 7-8%. I don't have that number offhand.
But that's less than the 10% of the stock market, though.
Depends on what year. Yeah, if you cherry pick 2020, yeah, it's probably.
You're saying year over year.
Starting from what year?
2000, 1980, whatever you want to call it. But on average, when you give a large sample size, I was under the impression that the stock market outperforms any of these commodities.
It depends what year you start at, right? I mean, it really does. Like I said, in the 1970s, gold outperformed the stock market by 2,500%. That's enormous. So it really depends on what your starting point is to determine what asset performs better. But in a slowdown in the economy, in a recession, gold crushes the stock market. So it's all about cycles, in my opinion. You can't go back 100 years. You got to look at what situation you're in right now. And right now, we're heading towards a major recession, and gold outperforms stocks in a major recession.
This goes back. This is from a website called A Wealth of Common Sense, but they give the annual asset class returns by decade, starting in the 1930s, so almost 100 years. And they say stocks, 9.8%, bonds, 4.6%, cash, 3.3%, real estate, 4.2%, gold, 4.9%, inflation, 3%. It says the 2020s have been an aberration for housing returns. Housing prices are already up nearly 50% in just 4 years in the 2020s, meaning this came out in 2024. So last year. That's already better for the total returns of decades, 1990s, 2000s, 2010s. So gold is real estate, certainly cash, bonds, and the only
Right.
thing that is better is the stock market.
But I mean, I'm not going to be living another 100 years. I'm looking at now, the here and now, and I'm looking at the next 10 years. I think everybody should have a 5 to 10 year investment horizon. That's the timeline they should be looking at. And in the next 5 to 10 years, you can't argue that real estate, stocks, or bonds are going to they're all in bubbles. Real estate's in a major bubble, stocks are in a major bubble, and bonds are in the biggest bubble in the history of mankind. Precious metals are nowhere near in a bubble. Nowhere near. We're at the beginning of the commodities bull market in precious metals. We're at the beginning of the collapse of the dollar. We're at the beginning of the Great Depression, possibly the greatest depression. We're at the beginning of hyperinflation. We're at the beginning of the banking crisis. I just don't. I mean, yeah, you can look back 100 years and look at returns, sure. I wouldn't look at that to determine what I'm going to put my money in today. Crypto didn't even exist back then. Crypto's the best performing. If you want to cherry pick assets, crypto's the best performing asset of all time. Period. I mean, you can't. It's not even close. But if you cherry pick years and you go back to, I mean, yeah, there's certain times it doesn't do well.
Well, if I were you, I'd be very bullish on gold right now, right? I mean, I'm just looking at
Super Bowl.
I'll show you the chart just so we're like, what is this guy talking about? Right? I don't know if you could see this, right?
Yep.
Anyway, that's just data, but you're absolutely right. Gold in the 1970s, 28% for the decade, whereas the stock market in the 70s was 6%. 80s and 90s, gold both minus 3%. Stock market 17, 18%. The stock market crushed it in the 80s and the 90s, right?
Yeah.
2000s, gold 14%.
Yeah.
Stock market negative 1%, right? Great recession.
Yep.
For the past 15 years, stock market 13% and 12% last couple years. Gold just sort of getting back on their footing of double digits. So everything's in waves. You know, I talked about asset allocation. You know, I always have the conversation with people who are going to say, I want to buy a house. I want to get into real estate. I go, why? It's a great investment. I go, is that really the only reason? Because if it's a great investment, there's better things.
Exactly.
And if you're like, oh, I just want to, I don't trust the stock market. I want to be able to touch it. It's like, you can touch gold.
Yep.
But I think a fear of people is, nobody's going to steal your house. They might steal stuff in your house. I think there's a fear, like a person's like, so I'm just going to have the gold. I'm going to have it in my house.
Yeah, they don't like it. They don't like it.
Comes in and steals my safe. Like, I only have a little piece of gold like this. I'm getting a safe for this. I can just pick up the safe. Like, I think there's a genuine fear for having gold in your house. What do you say to those people who are like, I don't know, I'd rather...
Well, there's options. Number one, there are vaults around the world that have been around for a long time that are safe, secure, that are run by Brinks, the best storage facilities in the world. Those are options for very, very cheap. You're talking less than 1% to store it there. So those are options. The other thing is, okay, you're actually trusting corrupt banking institutions with all of your wealth. Is that correct? I don't trust them. They're on the verge of collapse. The banks have collapsed multiple times, and they're going to continue. And I think we're at the
You have the FDIC. You have the FDIC for up to $250,000,
which is also a scam. I don't think the FDIC is going to do F all. You think they're going to actually pay you out their money? They don't have it. You think they're going to be able to pay every single person $250,000? No chance. Once that happens, there is no chance people are going to be getting their $250,000.
Rent more money.
You're right, but then that $250,000 will only be worth $25,000. That's the problem.
Whether they have it or don't have it, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, by the way, I know we're kind of winding down. So
Yeah.
how are you feeling?
Man, that was the weirdest situation I've ever felt. It's still tight right now, but the seizing up stopped. Thank God.
Michael, I got to be honest with you. I thought I was giving such incredible answer. You're like, you're blowing me away right now. I can't even stay in my seat. I'm like, oh, thank you, man. Wow. You go, no, water fast. Got it. Not the answer. Fuck.
Oh, it's too funny. Oh, that was crazy.
No, but I do believe in what you're saying. I do believe in having a nice percentage of your asset allocation into precious metals, gold, even silver. I learned more about silver today. Everyone focuses so much on gold. You're saying silver has more upside, right?
Way more.
The only thing I'm questioning is how can we make it more accessible and easier for people to grab their piece of the pie? That's it.
You're right. I'm trying. I'm doing my best. There's just not many of us. I'm the only one. Like, it's an old market. It's old money is invested in metals. The young money has no idea what metals are, and that's the tricky part. You're right, and we're trying our best. I'm gonna keep trying because you got to get creative in this world with social media, and
you do. And because young people are so accustomed to the digital age,
right?
When you tell them, yeah, go talk to the guy at the store.
I know. And
go buy the thing, they're like, what?
I know.
Just go buy digital gold that has outperformed everything in the history of the humanity. Talk to me when you grow up is what they're telling the gold people.
You're right.
So
it's tricky. It's tough to compete with crypto right now. That's very true. That's where people want to be, and I mean, I get it. And I'm heavily invested in crypto too. I believe in crypto and the future of crypto as well. But you got to have a position in metals. That's all. But Adam, I know you're you got another podcast to do as well, and you're a busy guy. So I appreciate your time. Sorry for the seizure I had there for a bit.
It made for one of the most interesting podcasts I've ever been on. I'll tell you that much. I was like, what's going to happen? They're going to be a round 2. Is Michael coming back? Is Marcello the new host? The Gold Awakening podcast with Adam Sosnick. What?
Thanks, brother. I'd love to do this again, man. I have so much more I want to talk to you about. So
just make sure you eat before we do it again, all right, Michael?
I'm not doing it during a fast. All right, brother. I'm on the next, so I'll reach out again, brother.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate it. Take care, man.
Hey,
Oh, hold on, Adam.
He's the only precious metal expert on Manek. Tell Patrick that.
Really?
Okay. So we're on Manek.
Make my life easy to help you. How about that? Help me help you. And just a little word of advice. Nobody's coming to Windsor to buy the gold. They're going to want to do it all over the world. How about that?
That's why he doesn't know to plug. He's got cannonbullion.com where you could buy it all over
North America. We ship it all over. And store it in vaults.
There we go.
So we're ready.
Hit me back on Manek. We'll keep this party going, dude.
You're looking for a podcast, precious metal guy, the Gold Awakening with Value Entertainment. This is your guy.
Marcello, if you're going to be on screen, get all the way on the screen.
This is your guy. Pitch it.
You're on the camera, brother. All right, man. I appreciate your time.
Be good.